Hello everyone and welcome to the How Good Is. Today we're going to talk about the one and only Sasha. Okay, actually, her name is Alexandra, but a lot of people are recently calling her Sasha because that's apparently a Russian nickname for Alexandra, which is alright. By the way, Alexandra is also a name that is used sometimes in Greek or in German, but the nickname Sasha is only really something that I've ever heard of in the Russian context. So over here, usually we use as a nickname Alex instead of Alexandra, but whatever, it's just a bit of side stuff. So yeah, so what about Sasha? So she's a support type, 2 XL, 2 charge this, rather simple, rather standard stuff. There's not a whole lot of too important stuff to talk about in this, but there is actually something that you should mention right away, in that there is the next Kimochi has already been announced, which is a water type Kimochi. This is going to happen in like a few weeks. And this Kimochi will inflict you with status ailments and will take more damage when it is in itself inflicted with multiple and more status ailments. So let's keep all of that in mind before we actually talk more about this character. But yeah, we can kind of already guess that this is going to be a character that is going to be quite alright for that Kimochi, but just how good for that Kimochi, let's find that out at least. The stats are quite alright. HP is actually quite good, but yeah, this is support, so stats I guess are just alright and nothing too special. How to personal though, that's actually a pretty interesting image. It's a school locker with a love letter, it seems like, on top of adult male shoes. Well, I'm not going to talk about her backstory because I don't think anyone on the internet that I know is capable of talking about that sort of topic in a reasonable manner. So let's skip right to the effects. It has anti-skill seal passive and MP gainer passive on it, which is fine. I mean, if you're going to play her, you're probably going to play her for, I guess, the Magia. If you have an MP gain up Memoria on here, well, I guess we'll have to find that out. But yeah, we have an MP gain up here, which is fine. If you want to play her on a Magia team, then yeah, this is probably something that you might want to take, unless you, of course, you have anything else that also has similar amounts of MP gain up, or even way more XL MP gain up than that. You would probably just take that instead. That's something to keep in mind. So, what does he actually do? Her connectives attack up, standard. MP gain up 30%. Hey, that's actually quite a lot. MP gain up. It's not just XL MP gain up, it's MP gain up. So yeah, that's pretty good. Which means that if they get hit before the next turn, they also generate more MP. For example, or if they use an XL disc, they generate more MP. Stuff like that. Not an XL disc, like a charge disc, they generate more MP. Stuff like that. Or if through some other mean they get MP restore, for example, a Madoka connects to them as well afterwards, they get more MP from that, or a Madoka uses Magia, or a Madoka just exists because Madoka is amazing, and then they get more MP from that. However, of course, one thing to note as well is that if you have an XL combo, that 20 MP you get from an XL combo does not get increased from MP gain up, and if you have a Blast character with Blast Salvation and Blast Irritation, that also doesn't get increased with MP gain up. But apart from those two, basically every single source of MP gain gets increased. So that's pretty cool to have. And also Charms on attack, which is of course a status ailment. Awesome. So you can kind of control enemies a little bit while building some Magia, none of which is too dramatically special, but it's still some stuff that is decent, that is nice to have on your team, that you would like to have. Especially if you're having a Magia team, which is nice. What does the Magia do? It does an AoE damage. Attack down to all enemies for 40%, that's quite a lot. Defense down to all enemies, 30% for 3 turns, that's quite a lot. If you're fighting a big boss, let's say, or rather, if you have not that many meteor rains, or just in general not that many defensive Memoria, and you're fighting a boss in like a challenge or an EX quest that does a lot of damage, and your team just dies after a while, and you think to yourself, man, what can I do against this? You could just use this, and if the enemy has like a 40% attack down for like 3 turns, that should keep your team rather safe for those 3 turns. So yeah, that's pretty nice to protect like free-to-play or like low-rarity team. That's pretty cool. The doppel is not that much more than this. The doppel is actually kind of boring. It's one of those doppels that don't really do much more. The only thing to do is you get the MP gain down on all enemies for 3 turns, 50%, which is very niche and barely ever matters. And even if it does, it's like, okay. The weird part is it's of course together with the attack down. If you want to stop the enemy from using a Magia, usually you're using that in a battle where the enemy Magia is going to kill you, right? But if the enemy has an attack down on them, maybe even 2 attack downs on them, they're not going to do much damage or any damage with their Magia at all anyway, so the delay might actually work against you if you like delay the Magier so much that they get their Magier off after the attack down ends. They probably might already be dead by then, so I guess it doesn't really matter. Like, the MP gain down is not really something that really matters too much. Now, I know what you might be thinking, but what about using this against Kimochi? Like, there are some Kimochi that use like give themselves MP up and like then get like a whole bunch of MP and you immediately use a Magier. Well, the last few times that was the case, the MP that they gained was like 9,999. At least the one that I remember. Or was it like 900? Oh no, it wasn't like 999, but it was like a lot. It was like a lot. It was way more than 100. Let's say that, for example, the enemy gives themselves 999 MP. If you reduce that by half with a 50% MP gain down, that's still 499, and they only need 100 to Magier, so it still does nothing. I said do 2 of them, and I don't know if they can even get, like, I think if you get 2 of them, don't they still get only to like 95%? I guess that's 50 MP, but they still wouldn't be able to Magier from that. I'm not quite sure how that exactly would work, but yeah, that thing by itself should probably not stop Kimochi from Magiering, unless they make a Kimochi only give themselves like 100 MP on their effect, and then this would actually do something. But yeah, like I said, the last few Kimochi that did that, they gave themselves 999, and that effect would do nothing against that. So far it seems like she has a little bit of everything. She's a little bit of jack of all trades, but guess what about jack of all trades? They're masters of none. But maybe her Spirit Enhancement helps out a little bit with that. Anti-Magier Seal, okay. Skill Breaking, where she's a support. Not really a whole lot of interesting stuff in here. Excel and picking up is nice on someone who likes to get to Magier. Anti-debuff, this is something interesting. Okay, she doesn't get hit by 1 debuff, okay. And Grabbing Unity Aura, wait, what is that? Yeah, that's something special right here. So you give yourself and your entire team at the start of any quest, including PvP, but you probably don't even play it in PvP that much. You get Excel gain up 10%, not a whole lot, but it's something everyone just gets for her just existing, which is awesome. And Stealth Aim Resistance up 15%, also, she just has to exist at the start of the battle, and everyone gets this for 5 turns, great. Now, we can also take a look at her active, and then I'm going to say something. Defense down for 1 target for 3 turns, whatever. The forest defense down 18% for 3 turns, okay. It's basically just another 18% of defense down, but that 18% only applies if the attacker is forest. So overall, it's not that much. It's like 33% defense down if you're attacking as a forest character, which, okay, whatever. But yeah, so we see self-aim resistance up, down, over here, which is fine, which is nice. And if we remember this, what I said earlier, the next Kimochi that is going to be run in a few weeks spams Stealth Aimants on your team, including like Skill Seal, I think. So isn't it kind of great to have, for 5 of those 6 turns that you fight against the Kimochi, to have Stealth Aimant resistance? Wouldn't that be great? Isn't that awesome? Yeah, that's pretty good, isn't it? And also, I guess defense down is also kind of alright against Kimochi if they give that Kimochi a lot of defense, which usually they don't give Kimochi that high defense, so defense down doesn't really do that much. So yeah, that's fine. And maybe the Kimochi, we don't know that yet, but maybe the Kimochi gives themselves buffs as well, like the red symbols. Probably not, but if it did, this Magier would also help quite a lot. So yeah, I guess the Stealth Aim resistance from the passive is really awesome for the Kimochi, as well as the charm, because apparently that Kimochi can be charmed, I think. And like it takes more damage the more Stealth Aimants are on it, so this would also help against that. But if we go away from that Kimochi, and I mean, by the way, you also have this right here, which stands for anti-skill seal 60% on the Memoria as well. Awesome. But yeah, so she seems to be quite alright for the Kimochi, but only quite alright. Like she's not gonna break the Kimochi in half like Sister Momoko did with the last 2 Kimochi. But outside of that, outside of the Kimochi, what does she actually do? Well, she can control a little bit with the connect. She can get people to Magier decently quickly with the XLP gain up, at least for the first 5 turns and with the connect. Outside of that, like, her Magier doesn't give any lasting buffs to her team, and attack down can be nice for survival, but if you don't need it for survival, the attack down is kind of useless. The defense down, most enemies in PvE don't have that much defense, so it's also not that amazing. And remove buffs is not going to do anything, like 99% of cases, so she has some interesting stuff to her, like the MP gain down in the doppel as well. She has some varied stuff where you can maybe find some uses for her stuff here and there. So overall, she's probably gonna do something almost all the time, but not really gonna be amazing at any point. She's just like, oh yeah, if you have a free slot, you can take her with her, she's gonna do something, and that's it. Like, she's not terrible, she's not bad, but she's not particularly amazing either. She's just okay. She's just an okay character. It kind of depends. I guess you can make her a bit more impressive if you actually do take her on a quest where, for example, the enemy does buff themselves really hard, or where it's really important to get to MP really fast with the exile and picking up with 10% actually does make a difference. But apart from that, Now also, of course, two Memoria on this Fade Weave. One is defense up and stealth aim resistance up. Once more in the idea of, hey, we're getting some stealth aim resistance in there and we're going to be a little bit more defensive. It's fine for that. If you want to use this for anything but defensive play, it's pointless. Like, this is just 100% defensive. I can maybe see this potentially used in PvP on, for example, a Varanagi or a Sudachi. If you're scared that the enemy might either burst you down or might throw some stealth aimants on you, it's fine for that. Apart from that, not that amazing. But hey, like I said, the next Kimochi is apparently going to use a bunch of stealth aimants, so if you've got some resistance, that's great. But apart from that, so once again, it's more like a tech choice where you take this in very specific quests maybe, but not something that you want to have just on your character at all times, because in most quests, this just won't do anything. Next up, we have this one right here, Counteract Attack. I'll just call it Counter Attack. Anyway, so it gives 15% attack for 3 turns, which is fine for 3/7 Memoria, but not really anything special. However, it also removes debuffs, which does sound okay at first, until you realize it's got 8 turn cooldowns, and 8 turn cooldown is quite a lot, especially when you're in a quest where the enemy applies debuffs. Usually they apply debuffs more than once, and when you can only do it once every 8 turns, that's effectively like once per battle. I don't think this is good enough for that. If this was lower cooldown, it would be way better. Like maybe 5 turn cooldown would already be way better, but no. Just no. Actually, the interesting bit is if this was like as low as 4 turn cooldown or something like that, or 5 turn cooldown actually, so that would be like a 2 turn cooldown or 3 turn cooldown in a PvP, the lowest that is possible. You could actually play this as like a counter to enemy Valinagis that use like meteor rain on you to remove your meteor rains, but it doesn't do that, so it's terrible. It's actually not that great. So yeah, overall, thank you everyone for watching. Keep in mind, by the way, that the Alexandra gacha is the first of a new type of gacha, the story gacha, and in this gacha, there are no spooks. Every single 4-star magical girl that you get is guaranteed to be Alexandra, meaning that if you roll 200 times, you are guaranteed 3 slot, because you get at least 2 pities in 200 rolls, and you're getting 200 meter coins for the 3rd slot. So yeah, with just 200 rolls, you are guaranteed at least 3 slot on Alexandra, because you cannot get spooked on that gacha, which is great. So at least that might sweeten the deal a little, since she's not that amazing, but she's not that bad either, right? So yeah, that was it. I hope you guys hit that subscribe button, ring the bell, and I'll see you guys next time.